Welcome to Losing a Child, Always Andy's Mom. On this podcast, we journey through the devastating experience of the death of a child. Grief is seldom discussed openly in our culture, and the death of a child makes people feel even more uncomfortable. We approach the topic openly and honestly, speaking to people who have lost loved ones and experts who help care for them. Whether you are a parent experiencing loss or someone who wants to support another going through this tragedy, this podcast strives to offer hope and help.
Welcome to episode number 320 of Losing a Child, Always Andy's Mom. I'm Marcy Larson, Andy's mom. Today, I have the pleasure to introduce you to Stephanie. Stephanie is Junior's mom. Stephanie is still so fresh in her grief, having just passed the 1-year mark since Junior died. These interviews always tend to really bring me back to what I was thinking and feeling in those days, especially since that is just about the time when I started the podcast, when I was about 1 year out from Andy's death. So it does bring me back, and I know it will bring lots of you back as well. And then others of you who are fresh in your grief, this may sound really, really familiar. We also have a sponsor for this week's episode. This week's episode was sponsored by Patty in honor of her daughter, Abby. Patty donated in honor of Abby's birthday last month. She wrote to me, "I wanted to do something special to honor my girl on her birthday, and your podcast has been such an encouragement to me. It seemed appropriate to give to the podcast in memory of her. Thank you, Marcy." I also want to take a little moment here to talk again about the support groups that I am involved in through Starlight Ministries. So I announced this last week, and I'm going to make one more announcement that the new session is going to be starting in just about a week and a half now. You can find out more information by going to Starlight Ministries' website, starlightmin.org. We have the virtual support groups that I help facilitate. We also have evening groups on Monday evening and Tuesday evening, and those are facilitated by good dear friends of mine, some of whom have been on the podcast, so you would know their stories as well. So anyway, now there are 3 sessions: Monday night at 6:30 Eastern Time, Tuesday morning, the one that I do at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and then Tuesday evening at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. All of those, you can get information by going to that starlightmin.org website, or you can sign up and register by emailing chris@starlightmin.org. We really have plenty of openings for this last session of the year. It will be a 4-week session. And again, that will start the second week of November. So that first group would be on Monday, November 10th. So if you want to join us, that would be great. A lot of the people in the groups have been on the podcast before or are longtime listeners of the podcast. I just mentioned Patty earlier, who donated in honor of her daughter, Abby. And with her permission, I'm telling you, she's a member of one of these groups. And so I got to know her well that way. Also, if it seems like this is a little too early, there will be new sessions starting up again in February. So it is never too late to get involved. Okay, I have one last announcement for the upcoming live stream that will be occurring this coming Monday, November 3rd at 4 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern Time. Again, that topic is going to be on those unexpected emotions of grief, and I'm here to give you question number 3. So question number 3 from Gwen is, have you ever had thoughts like, I wonder why blank isn't in anything I have read about grief? So perhaps this is something that's really been a big emotion in your grief journey, and yet you've heard nothing about it from anybody, and it feels like maybe you're the only one that has had those thoughts. So if you've got some question like that, comment like that, again, email me those answers, those responses to Marcy, MARCY, @andysmom.com. And again, join us on that live stream. So the different platforms will be on Gwen's Facebook page, my Facebook page, which is Always Andy's Mom. You can also go to the Always Andy's Mom Instagram page or the Always Andy's Mom YouTube channel. any of those will work. And hopefully we'll have people come in from all three. And we're going to give this a try. Hopefully the later afternoon will work out great for people. But if it doesn't, we'll just go back to the evening. If you have thoughts on the best time of day to have these, feel free to email that as well. If you want to share your story on the podcast, now feel free to email me at Marcy, M-A-R-C-Y, at andysmom.com. I have just a couple more openings left for 2025, and then we'll be starting to book into 2026. Right now, though, I just want you to sit back and enjoy listening to Stephanie, Junior's mom. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for agreeing to come on the Always Andy's Mom podcast today.
Yes, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm looking forward to talking to you. So I've got to start out with a little story for the listeners because, most of the time I have guests that come on because they emailed me themselves and we have a nice little conversation and that, or we have a lot now that come on through publicists, that their publicist arranges it. And so I haven't met them before, but you have a unique publicist.
I indeed I do. Yes. It is my daughter.
So Stephanie comes on the show by way of her daughter. So her daughter, Lorraine, has been emailing me. She is not a publicist. I use that term a little loosely there because you said, is a truck driver.
She is a long haul.
So she listens to lots of podcasts and started listening to my podcast and then told her mother, you have to listen to this podcast because I think you will find it really helpful. So you started listening. And then she writes to me all about her brother, set this whole thing up, and now she's not here. And what I told her was the funniest thing is that listed on here, it was Junior's mom, and it was just, and then I always put the name of the person, but I just have Lorraine's mom because Lorraine never told me your name in any of the emails I have. You're just mom. So anyway, it's a little bit of a surprise. I didn't know even that your name was Stephanie. So welcome to the show, Stephanie.
Yes. Hi, I'm Stephanie. Thank you. Yes, she's hilarious.
But she did say, my mom loves talking about my brother.
Yeah.
She just gets so much joy out of talking about him. I think she would be great on the podcast. So here you are.
Indeed. I'll talk to anybody who will listen about my son any day of the week.
I think that's pretty much the words she used too, that you are happy to talk about him whenever anyone wants to listen. So now you've got an audience who wants to listen. So why don't you start out by just talking all about your son, Junior?
Well, Junior, his birth name is Rudy, which is my husband's name also. So ever since he was a baby, we just called him Junior. So as he was growing up, people just thought that his name was Junior. No one ever really knew that his name was Rudy. You just like some of his friends and stuff. But he was born in 2006. My oldest was 10 and Raina was, I believe, 7 at the time. So he was kind of like a, accidental, wasn't expected. Really? Yes.
10, 7, and an oops. There you go.
Yes. But he grew up kind of like, once he got to like 10 years old, he was basically like an only child.
Right.
Because both the girls were gone already, so he was just him in the house. He was very spoiled.
And that's funny too, because you turned into a girl family.
Yes.
Right? You had your girls that you raised, and then suddenly you have this boy like way later. I mean, it just changed everything.
Everything.
So then the girls move out of the house, like now you're just a boy family. You've just got the boy.
Yes. Yes. But when he was little, they did used to dress him up in wigs and make him wear like costumes, and they'd call him Ruby. And
so sweet.
They had a lot of fun with him.
Oh, good. Sounds like a fun house.
Yes. Junior was the same way. We like to joke and keep things light. We're not very serious people, and I've taught, all my kids all their lives, like there's nothing too serious that you can't fix it, don't get so stressed out about stuff, I guess until something like this happens and then you really can't fix it.
Right.
But anywho, Junior was, oh gosh, such a loving, playful kid. He was a mama's boy through and through. Loved spending time with me. I taught him how to drive when it was time. Taught him everything. He was huge into sports. He was playing sports since he was probably 4 years old is when he was in Taekwondo. And then he did jujitsu, boxing, cross country, track, wrestling, football. There's nothing he didn't do.
That's so fun.
Everything. Amazing, amazing, amazing athlete. Really, honestly. Just, and everything he set his mind to, he did. One time, I love telling his stories. It's just hilarious. And it really gives you insight into our kind of family dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
This was when he was in high school. I used to go to the gym with him all the time. So I don't know if anybody's ever been to the gym with a teenage boy, but bro, let me tell you, it's a lot of fun. So I used to do the stair stepper, and he, lifts weights and all that stuff. So he was talking smack to me about not lifting weights, and I was telling him, well, you couldn't do this either. So he said, oh, is that a challenge? So we basically set a date where we were going to see who could climb the most flights of stairs.
Okay.
So kicked him out of school for this and took him to the gym, and we did 40 minutes to see who could climb the most flights of stairs. He's never been on a stair stepper in his life, and I know how tough it is because I do the stair stepper all the time. This little son of a gun beat me. He beat me by, God, a good 40 flights.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. He never let you live that down, did he?
No, he did not. He did not. So that's just kind of a little insight into his personality. He never did anything half-hearted. Everything was always full throttle, got to be the best, and everything's a competition.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, if that's everything a competition with him, 100%. Yeah.
Yes, he's like that meme that says, when you tell him to slow down and smell the flowers, and that turns into a competition of how many flowers you can smell.
Oh, I love it.
That's basically him in a nutshell. But he's very smart kid. He, at the time of his passing, he had, he was only 18 years old, but he had certificates. He had money invested in certificates through the bank. He had started a clothing line in 11th grade.
Really? Wow.
Where he was making shirts. He was always finding ways he wanted to be an entrepreneur, a businessman, and he had a lot of dreams and a lot of things he wanted to do. He wasn't one of those kids that just sat in his room and played video games. He was never in his room. Hardly ever.
Oh, nice. He was always out and about doing stuff, huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mostly working, because working makes money, so.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
I gotcha. Very good.
That was his big thing. But he was on the football team, through high school. Wrestling. He did wrestling and track. He had a love for running. Even when he was in junior high, he did cross country, which just makes what ended up happening all the more perplexing and just nonsensical. Just doesn't make any sense at all. On September 11th of 2024, he enlisted in the Marine Corps. So he was going to the Marines.
Wow.
Yes.
That was a big step, huh?
Yeah, huge. My husband was a Marine. He retired in 2018. He did 20 years in the Marine Corps. And Junior, when he was little, he always wanted to be a Marine. And then kind of when he got a little older, he wanted to be more like a business owner. He wanted to do more like property investment. And then once he became a senior, he's kind of went back to, well, I can do both.
Right. I was going to say, that's not mutually exclusive. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Both can be true at the same time. So he got that idea. And so September 11th, crazy, just kind of solemn day for the country. He was swearing into the Marine Corps.
Well, I mean, it's a beautiful day to do that, really, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually that day on September 11th, 2024, he was the MEPS from our house, which is where you go do all your onboarding and stuff for the military. It's about 2.5 hours away. So he was up there with the recruiter, and he texted me, he said, Mom, I don't feel great. Like, his words were, I feel like death. Like, my head is pounding. I just don't feel good. I figured he was probably dehydrated. He's probably tired.
Sure.
He worked at 7 Brew, which is a coffee place and an energy drink place from figuring he's probably not been drinking water and probably been drinking energy drinks or something. He stuck it out, and when he got home later that day, we threw a little party for him in the driveway and stuff,
Sure.
and he said he was much better, and he was officially enlisted in the Marines. That was in September, and he was slated to leave in March.
Okay. All right. So he's got some time.
Yeah. One of his best friends, Fidel, he enlisted with him. So they were together. They were doing the buddy program to go to the Marine Corps together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that was a thing. That's a cool program.
But then not even a month after that, it was October 5th, he had been training all summer with his best friend Fidel. He was getting ready for the half marathon. He wanted to complete one, and we have an annual one here. It's called the Frog Hill Half Marathon. So he had been training, getting his miles in and stuff. And then October 5th was the race day.
And he wanted to do that, I suppose, before he goes away, right? Before he enlists. And it's a good thing to do before you have to do basic training and things like that, right?
Yes.
To get yourself in really good shape.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. So he was running.
So made a lot of sense to do that.
And he liked doing it. They go out running, and, he was good at it. So they'd run 8-9 miles, getting ready. So by the time the half marathon came around, he was ready for it. It's not like he just woke up one day and was like, I think I'll run one today. No, he had been training for quite some time for it. But after he crossed the finish line, his goal for the run, I will say also, was he wanted to do it in under 2 hours.
Wow.
Which is really good.
Yeah, that's a really good time.
Especially for a first timer, a sub 2 hour half marathon is a really good time. He crossed the finish line at 1 hour, 57 minutes and 27 seconds. So he made it.
Oh,
he made it.
He did.
Yeah, he did. But then, we were recording him. We happened to stop recording right after he passed the finish line. And then for some reason, he kind of leans down on a table, and he's just standing there, and then he just kind of collapses. And from where we were standing, we were thinking like maybe he's just tired, or,
right.
Because some people just kind of lay down in the grass after they've run that long.
Sure.
But he wasn't getting up. And so, we run over there, and we were trying to figure out what was going on. And that's when we realized, like, okay, it's serious, and things are going through my mind. Like maybe he got overheated, extremely dehydrated.
Yeah.
I couldn't wrap my head around what was going on. I think we were in shock, really, because it just wasn't registering. So I called 911 immediately, was talking to them on the phone. And, it felt like I was talking to them for 30 minutes. I'm just wondering what is taking these people so long. I'm seeing medics all around because they usually post up, at the races and stuff. They're everywhere.
That's what I was thinking. Shouldn't there have been a lot of people around?
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of people around. So later on, months after, I had checked my call log, and I was on the phone with 911 for, I think, 72 seconds.
Really?
And that was it. And it felt like an hour that no one was there.
Yeah. And then somebody was there like that fast? Somebody was there?
And they were there that fast. Yeah.
Wow. 72 seconds.
For some reason in my mind, it felt like an eternity.
Well, I can understand that.
Yeah. Two gentlemen who I didn't know at the time, but Larry and Javier, they immediately started CPR. And while I was talking to 911, they were doing CPR, and, they were asking if he was breathing, and, no one could really tell. We didn't know what was going on. And the emergency personnel got there, and loaded him up and took him to the hospital. And so we, end up all at the hospital, and we're just waiting around, and he never regained consciousness after that. That was when he collapsed, is pretty much when he died.
Yeah, that's just so hard to wrap your head around, right? Your 18-year-old kid.
It should be like one of the happiest things.
Who just ran a sub 2 hour half marathon.
Right. Should be one of the happiest days of his life because, that's a pretty big accomplishment.
Yeah.
The people at the hospital in the emergency room, you couldn't really tell us anything. Obviously, they didn't really know what happened. All they knew is that his heart stopped and they couldn't get a heartbeat back. And they did CPR. It was all the part of 45 minutes, I want to say.
Yeah.
It was a really long time, but he never left that field alive. He was already dead.
Just so horrible.
So waiting for the autopsy was excruciating because just so many things going through our head, like what could have possibly happened? How could it have happened? And how could it have been so serious that it just killed him immediately? That just didn't make any sense. So we finally got the autopsy back, and it was about a month later to the day. They said that what happened was he had a hemorrhage at the base of his brainstem, basically in his pons. There was a malformed vein or vessel.
Yeah, venous malformation. Yep.
And he had a hemorrhage. And they said he was probably born with that vein like that.
Right.
It could have been caused by an injury in sports or something like that at some point, but they can't give you a real answer.
Yeah.
It's just, there is no way to know.
And then it just happened to go at that moment, right? When he was under a lot of stress and pushing his body hard and things like that.
Right, which he had done so many times before.
Right, of course. I mean, he ran cross country, he ran track, he did tons of sports.
Right. He was an avid weightlifter. Like this kid, a ridiculous amount of weights and protein that this kid was doing. Just protein, weight.
So there's no way you could have ever imagined it.
No, and the doctor said that even if after he had that weird headache when he was enlisting, even if we, for some reason, would have been able to get him an MRI, which nobody would have done an MRI for that. They would have just been like, drink some water. But they said even if, they probably wouldn't have caught it.
Yeah. No, I'm sure not.
Because there's just really no, unless you're like looking for that specific thing, it's really hard to catch.
Yeah. It would have to be an MRA. So they can have an MRI that you put a certain amount, that you put dye in to look at the arteries and look at the vasculature. But that would just not, you just don't do that routinely. Right. I mean, it's just not something that's done routinely at all, ever. So
exactly.
I can see why it wouldn't have been caught, but it makes it so hard. I mean, it's hard anyway, but it makes it so hard, right?
It makes it that much worse. I mean, I guess I don't know if it does make it worse that it couldn't have been prevented, or if it makes it more bearable that there was nothing.
In some ways, maybe it makes it a little better, right?
Right.
That there's not something you missed, right? There's nothing that could have changed, but it is hard when it's just so incredibly sudden.
Yes.
Especially like you said, you went from what should have been one of the happiest days of his life.
Exactly.
Right? This huge accomplishment. It's so amazing. Everyone goes from this to this celebration, and then devastation.
Yes. And we had chili cooking at home. We were going to come home and, I think football was on or going to be on, and we're going to eat chili and just hang out at the house. And
the whole family came?
We were all there ready for him to cross the finish line.
I was going to say, I think your daughter said she was there.
Yes, she was there. Right. They had just gotten in the day before or 2 days before off the road. And that Friday night before, because this happened on a Saturday, the Friday night before, we celebrated Raina and Jaren's birthdays. Jaren is her fiance, and their birthdays are one day apart. So we celebrated their birthdays and gave them all their presents, and Raina got a Polaroid camera. So she took pictures of everybody. So, we have pictures of literally the night before of everyone just, laughing and having a good time and all that. So, but now that I've said all that, I will go back to his personality, because he was a jokester. He just thought he was so funny, but his things that he would do, like, for instance, he would like go to gym or come back from football practice and then try to hold me or one of his sisters down and put his shirt in their face, or just gross boy stuff, and just think it's the funniest thing in the world, and we have to yell at him, "Junior, it's disgusting, knock it off." And so he just thought he was hilarious. He was also just so funny. One day I got a phone call from him, and this was probably in August, maybe. He's like, Mom, I have an assignment due in 1 hour and I need your help. It's a paper I have to write. So I'm like, okay, we'll talk later about why we're just hearing about this and you need help, but what is it? And he said, I need to write about a memory. And I said, okay, well, what do you need me for? And he said, I need you to give me a memory. I said, Junior, a memory has to come out of your mind, not mine. You have to think of a memory. Like, I know, but if you remember it, then, if I remember it, you were probably there. So maybe you can just refresh my memory. So, oh my God, a child.
So did you give him a memory?
I did. In true mom fashion, we had just the year prior, we had taken him and Fidel on a cruise, and Fidel lost his wallet on the airplane, of all places.
Oh, no.
We were talking about that, and he said, yeah, that's a good one. I'll write about that. So that was, I want to say, about a month or two before he passed, and his teacher actually ended up sending us the finished paper afterward.
Really?
Saying that, yeah, this was Junior's last assignment in class, and it was a paper about Fidel and going to the Bahamas and him losing his wallet and the whole thing. So
that's so sweet.
It was kind of nice to get that paper back. It's kind of like having a piece of him back.
Yeah. Those are precious, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
In August, we celebrated his 19th birthday, and we went to the park here called Ashley Park, where we put a memorial bench up for him. He used to run there a lot. Put a memorial bench up and a granite slate with engraving on it, and then planted a weeping willow tree, which we honestly didn't think was going to make it through the winter because it was just a sapling, and the winters here in Missouri are pretty rough. And it just flourished and is grown so much, and it's just so beautiful. So we had Junior's birthday celebration there at the park, mostly arranged by Raina, my assistant.
Yes, your publicist.
My publicist, yes. She did a lot of the stuff for it, but we had, I want to say, close to probably 75, 100 people at least show up for his birthday.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Just to show up and, say, we miss you, Junior, and, you made an impact in our lives.
Doesn't that just warm your mama's heart when stuff like that happens?
It does. It really does. Of all things like that bring tears to my eyes of joy, because I think any mom who's lost a child can tell you that one of my biggest fears is for the world to forget he was ever here. For them,
Yes.
For his name to not really have any meaning to anybody. It'll always have meaning to his family, but to other people. And our community and his friends, are really, really helping that not to happen. They're really trying to keep his memory alive and his name alive. He was going to youth group through church. He ended up getting baptized almost a year to the day before he passed away. So he was saved just recently on the 1-year anniversary of his death. Another teenage boy here got baptized and said that he was saved at Junior's funeral and that he wanted to get baptized. And I just can't even put into words how amazing that is, as a mom, to just know that he's just impacted people.
Because you're so right. I think that is our biggest fear, really, is that our kids will be forgotten, especially like you and I, who had kids that were teenagers, right? They were teenagers. Yes. They never had their own family. They didn't have any of that stuff. Nothing will kind of live on it, like, if you had kids or something like that.
Right. Continue their legacy or...
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We don't. So I think as moms, I fear that at some point I'll be the only one. Right.
Exactly.
Or Dad and I will be the only one. And his brother and sister too. But I also know, like, they probably will grow up and have their own families and things like that. Not that they won't still remember their brother. They will. But it's not the same way that I feel like I will. So it's just warms my heart so much when someone, when something like that happens, when someone says, he really made a difference to me.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I wanted to get baptized on this day to honor him. I mean, that's beautiful.
Profound. Yeah. Just amazing. About 10 days after his passing, we had obviously tons of family and friends, and, it's just such a chaotic time. But myself, my little sister, both my daughters, my brother, my nephew, and two of my nephews all did a mass baptism at the church by the same pastor that baptized Junior a year prior.
Really?
Yes. Yes. Everyone was basically saying, that because of Junior, this happened. If it wasn't for Junior, this wouldn't have happened.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
My walk with God, and I know Raina's walk with God, and a lot of my family's walk with God, my little sister's walk with God has just grown so much, and it's just crazy to me that my 18-year-old son brought me to God, and all of my family, and so many of his friends, and his Bible, which still is, was open to Leviticus. He was reading through it, and every time I say that and someone, is familiar with the Bible, they're like, oh gosh, that's rough. Leviticus. Right.
Like, how long was he going through that?
I have no idea. But my only regret is that, I wasn't this way before he passed, and I could have shared this with him. But it's because of him that we all are this way now.
Yeah. That is a gift. It is a gift from him, for
Yeah.
sure. But certainly not one that you wanted to be this way.
No, yeah. But that just warms my heart, because I know that he's still helping God. He's still making differences in people's lives, even a year later. And his motto, he actually got it tattooed on his arm when he turned 18, was me versus me. He said, I'm not in competition with anybody else. I just want to be better than who I was yesterday or who I was last year. And so we've really taken that and run with it.
For sure.
All his friends got a tattoo after his passing, so, and then just lots of people, I see it on cars, I see it on shirts, I see it. People did fundraisers, shirt fundraisers, and stickers, and
they all say that. They all say that, me versus me.
Every time I see some apparel, yes, yeah. Oh. They also say run like Rudy, finish your race and finish it strong.
Yeah.
It's just really impactful to be like in town and see somebody that I don't know, and I'm like, hey, they're wearing a Junior shirt.
Yeah. And they have no idea even who you are, probably, huh?
No, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. We're holding an annual. We did one this past year that one of his friends put on, but this year, the family's holding a 5K race in honor of Junior, where everyone can just, you can walk it or run it or whatever, but it's really just to help keep his memory alive. It's Run Like Rudy. And it's June 13th at the Ashley Park, where his bench is and where his memorial's set up.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, so we're excited about that. It gives us something to work toward, and a way to help, like I said, keep his memory alive and keep talking about him.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, if we stop talking about him, then that's when, he kind of starts fading away, and I don't want that. I want to keep his name, fresh in everybody's mind. That's why I tell, my husband or my daughters, like, hey, if you want to talk about Junior anytime, I am, we might cry, we'll laugh.
Ready, willing, and able.
Yeah, but I will talk about him. I have no problems with that. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yep. This is why she got you scheduled on the podcast, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
That's right. That's right.
She knows me too well.
So talk about this past year and kind of your grief journey, because obviously it started so shocking in such a shocking way, but just talk about that.
Yeah. I think the first couple months were just all shock and disbelief. And, they say there's, so many different phases of grief, and it's true. And you can go through them all in one day, I believe, and then go back
Yeah.
to an old one and continue to go through that one. And I still go through shock and disbelief. And that was one of the very first phases, but I still revert back to that sometime because I'm just in utter
100%.
shock that this can be my life now.
And you know what? It's going to keep happening to you, Stephanie. I can tell you. I mean, I can remember standing in my in-laws, and it had been like 3 or 4 years, and I just had this overwhelming feeling of like, how is this my life? How can this be my life? Like, I just couldn't believe it. And I think it had been 3 years, and I thought, it's been 3 years. Of course this is your life, right? But yet still it was just this, it just doesn't seem possible, right?
No, and it's, like this past year, a year has passed, and I mean, our lives haven't frozen in time, but a lot of it does, when you're grieving. A lot of it was just kind of frozen in time, and then, you look outside your window and, life has just gone on. People are doing people things, and it's hard to pick yourself up out of that kind of shock and try to make some kind of life out of what pieces you have left.
Yeah.
And I think by us leaning into God and into who Junior was as a person, has been what's kept us afloat. And we have a really strong family. Our family dynamic is very close. It's always been, and we've gotten, even closer, I would say, since this happened, because I'm sure you know it all too well, but, stuff like this happens to other people. It doesn't happen to us.
Right.
It happens on TV or something you hear a story of, but just not, to me personally, but I mean, I guess it does.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like it should, though, does it?
Right. Yeah.
It just doesn't feel like it should.
But after the first, I think, I want to say 2 months of just kind of, it's really blurry, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh.
I don't really remember a lot of it just because I think we're just not zoned out, I guess, kind of like zombies.
Yeah.
Not even sure what is going on.
No question. I feel like for me, I think I could say that for 6 months. I don't think I know. I mean.
Yeah. No, I was trying to be, but like after about 2 months is kind of when everything died down, people stopped coming over as much, and
yeah, right. For sure.
And you kind of
right
are left with, well, what are we supposed to do now?
Yeah.
Because that's when you have to start rebuilding without, such an important part of the family, such an important part. He was the baby, and the girls always were making fun of him or talking, like, you don't know what it's like to struggle. We had to grow up in the 90s with our parents, and, you're the baby, you're spoiled, you get anything you want. But they were just as bad, spoiled him with everything.
Oh, I'm sure they did.
Everything, all the time. Anything you wanted. Yeah.
Well, I think it would be especially challenging for you too, because, obviously he's 18 years old. He's still at home. Obviously he's going to be leaving home soon, but he's still at home. You were still his, mother every day of the week, just, mom, cooking meals, doing all this stuff. And then with him gone, now your next youngest one is 7 years older, like long out of the house. So that changed so much in your family. I think losing the youngest it can be hard, but I think since he was kind of such a tag along compared to the others, that would have been just so shocking to your system.
Right. Yeah. To me and his dad, my husband.
Yeah.
Obviously he loves the girls very much, but that was his son.
Yeah, I know.
And, he still takes it really hard. He has, some really rough days, but.
And he will, because you're early. You're still early.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I always found it really comforting. I remember, I don't know, I was on the podcast. I started the podcast about a year after Andy died. So I was talking to somebody maybe a year or two after that. So I was like 2-3 years in, and somebody said to me, "Oh, you're so early still." And that made me feel so good,
Right.
right? Because then there aren't high expectations.
Right.
Now, other people might think, oh, it's been a year now. Stephanie should be doing better. But that's not true. I mean,
Right.
honestly, that second year, I think, can be extra challenging because now it's more real.
Right.
Like last year at this time when you're going through this, you're just in a fog. You don't even know what's going on. This is the first year you're now going to go into the fall season and the holidays and things like that and kind of have an idea of what's going on.
Right. Exactly. And kind of remember the feeling of, oh, well, last Christmas was the first Christmas he wasn't here.
Yes.
And,
yes.
Now that we've gotten a little time under our belts with it, and had some time to process, I'm sure it's going to be different, but the same.
Yes,
but
exactly. It's different, but the same.
Yeah.
That's 100% right. Because you feel like, okay, now I've gone through this once. Well, yeah, but you didn't know what the heck you were doing. I mean, it was just you're a hot mess then.
Exactly. And it was blind. Yeah. Definitely.
And it was blind. Right. It was totally blind. And now other people who are not grieving people think, oh, they've done this once before. This won't be as bad this year. Not realizing that.
Right.
First year, like, barely counts. Like, you were barely even functioning.
Yes. I love that you said that because I feel that same way. And with the year just passing, and people are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's been a year, and I'm like, I can.
Yeah.
I can.
Right.
And it's so weird because I can tell you right now, it feels like yesterday. It doesn't feel like a year has passed. But then at the same time, it seems like it's been a lifetime since I've seen my son. And I just can't wrap my head around the two different time frames that's going on.
How they can both be true, but they're both true.
At the same time. Yeah.
At the same time. Yes, I remember I had someone on years ago, and a neighbor came after her child died. A neighbor came over, and she didn't know that her neighbor had lost a child, had lost a son. And she said, so when did he die? Because she had no idea. And she said, I think she said something like 30 years ago, last year, last week, an hour ago. Right? Because in many ways, it's been 30 years, but in other ways, it felt like it had just happened an hour ago.
Yeah.
Like there are certain things in your life that are just forever kind of frozen and in that moment forever.
Oh, yeah.
Even 30 years later. So that, I think, makes sense that you would say, yes, this has been forever, but no, this just happened.
And like you said, with the neighbor, I feel the same way. Like, it happened a year ago, but it just happened. It just happened. I'm still not even processing what's happened.
Right. And you still have the shock, and you still have, like, that's not even totally worn off yet, really.
Yeah, especially, he passed away in October, and then the holidays happened, and then springtime came, and, he was supposed to graduate high school. And so we had to go get his diploma. We walked the stage for him and received, things that he was supposed to receive. And it was just still kind of a fog, and then just thinking, my son should be here getting his diploma. My son should be shipping off to boot camp. My son should be doing this. My son should be doing that. But it's just a reality just slammed in your face. Like, well, none of that's going to happen, because I think as a parent, you not only grieve for everything you've lost in your child, but you also grieve for everything they never got to have, everything they never got to experience, just from graduating high school to joining the Marines to being a Marine, deploying, having a family.
Yeah.
Just all the things,
Yep. All those things, those dreams that you wanted to have for them, the future.
Yeah.
It is really hard when you've lost that future.
I think with our grief journey, it's been really tough too, because, and we're just kind of figuring this out through therapy, that we're not only just trying to grieve and do it, in the healthiest way possible, but we also experienced a lot of trauma the day that he passed
Yeah.
because we were all right there and watching, everyone watched him take his last breath. And it was just so traumatizing. And I think we're starting to figure that out now so we can address that maybe separately, so everyone can kind of try to pick up the pieces. But I think we were just grieving for so long, we didn't really think about it. But now, like you said, just memories are just etched into your mind of, that day and down to the hour, down to the minute, down to the second. So,
Yeah. And that takes a lot of therapy to try to work through that.
right. Yeah. It's been a year of grieving, but I honestly feel like it's just going to be a lifetime of grieving, and it doesn't always have to be all sad.
Right.
I try to remembering Junior and having other people remember him is what brings me joy.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially when people share little memories that maybe you
Yes.
weren't even a part of, right?
Right. Oh, I've heard so many of them that I'd never heard before. And, people just saying, well, Junior told me this, or I have this picture of Junior doing this. And, most of it is just amazing, amazing things that I'm just like, wow, because as a parent, you know who your kid is when they're at the house. You know who they are when you're in public with them. You know who they are around you, but you don't know really who they are when you're not around.
Yeah.
Who they are in front of other people. And for other people to tell you what a great kid you had is just, as a mom, it's just so heartwarming. And knowing that, he was out there being a really good human and people genuinely loved him.
Oh, yeah. That does make your mama's heart proud.
Yeah, it does.
Well, is there anything else you really wanted to kind of say to the audience, either about Junior or grief journey or just what things have been like?
Like I said earlier, Junior's motto, was me versus me. And he did work every single day. He worked in the gym. He worked on, he read books, lots of books. He just always tried to be a better version of himself. And we have a motto, live like Junior or run like Rudy. And, I truly believe that if people follow that, just show up every day, show up and do your best. And the next day, show up again and do better. And I just really think that people's lives could be improved drastically. And
if you always just strive to be your best you.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And that's what Junior always said. He's like, I'm not in competition with anybody except for when he wanted to compete on the Stairmaster. But anyways, but he wasn't really
but
like,
in general,
yes, in general, he just wanted to be great. And he was.
He just wanted to be the best Junior he could be.
Yes. And he was.
I don't got to say the best Junior because you don't want to say that he wanted to be the best Rudy he could be because that means he's in competition with his dad.
Right. Which they used to arm wrestle. They stopped arm wrestling probably the past couple of years because it was getting too hard for his dad, I think. Because Junior really put on a lot of muscle.
Well, it sounds like it with all that weightlifting. You'll have to send me some pictures because we'll have to post some pictures so people will see it, muscle-bound Rudy Jr.
Yes, I will send them. We have thousands.
Well, thank you so much for sharing Junior with us today. I really, really did enjoy hearing about him and listening to you talk.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate this, and I'm going to kiss Raina for scheduling this.
Yes, kiss that publicist. All righty.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you found this helpful and would like to support the podcast, please leave a 5-star rating and comment. To help financially, you can type Andy's Mom, one word, to the number 53555. This provides a link to GiveButter, which allows donations through PayPal, Venmo, Apple Pay, or credit cards. GiveButter will provide a receipt of your tax-deductible donation. Or you can visit the donation page at andysmom.com/donate. Always Andy's Mom is a registered 501c3 and can receive donations through Thrivent Financial and Benevity. Marcy loves hearing from listeners. Please feel free to reach out to her via email at marcy@andysmom.com or on the Instagram or Facebook Always Andy's Mom accounts. Sign up for the email list to get weekly episode links as well as pictures of Marcy's guests and their children. Together, let's work to inspire hope, one day at a time.